Hello and welcome to another Dragon Ball FighterZ video. Today, TGN Anime presents a character profile for Hit. Hit is one of the most different and unique characters in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Your practice and experience with other characters won't do much for you if you're trying to master Hit, as his moveset from normals to specials is just completely different from what we're used to in this game. And here are a few examples of that. His medium and heavy attack buttons launch forward a significant distance, so Hit can engage from really far away and start a combo just like that. But Hit will prefer to stay on the ground because that's where most of his moves are. You can launch an opponent into the air if you want, but you'll have to do it with a launcher from the ground because his down medium takes a really long time to come off compared to other low mediums. So he can't really be integrated into a combo because of this long animation. Hit's also got an extra overhead attack on the ground besides the universal overhead with forward and the medium attack button, and that's with down and the light attack button. There's still a considerable animation in this attack, maybe even a bit longer than the universal overhead, but since Hit has two overhead attacks on the ground, this will make him harder to read. And finally, just pressing the special button, Hit won't throw a Ki Blast or anything of the sort. This is actually a counter that works both on the ground or in the air. While on the ground, if Hit is attacked, he will vanish and punch the enemy in return. Not everything can be countered, super attacks cannot be countered, the Dragon Rush cannot be countered, but anything from normal, special attacks, Ki Blasts, it works against all of that. And you can actually cancel from a counter into a super if you really want to punish that opponent. While in the air, Hit won't counter with a punch, but the vanish animation is much faster, meaning you can immediately start a combo after you vanish. Moving on to his special attacks, just like his normals, his specials are also very different from all the other characters. So let's start as simple as possible and work our way up. Quarter circle backwards and an attack button executes the Icy Glare. This ice will show up on the ground, and if it touches the opponent, it will damage them. And you can follow that up with a vanish or super if you want. The longer you hold the attack button, the more ice will show up on the ground. And depending on the attack button you press, the ice will come from a different position, with the light attack button summoning it from Hit's side, the medium attack button summoning it from the opponent's side, or the middle of the screen in case the opponent is right up against the wall, and the heavy attack button does the same as the medium, but the ice spreads a bit faster at the cost of 1 bar of meter. This attack is completely unblockable, you'll need to be in the air if you want to avoid it. But at the same time, Hit is vulnerable while summoning the ice, so a projectile attack or a super dash ends up countering it pretty easily. Next, Hit has a couple of stances in this game, which after you activate a stance, you can follow it up with different attacks. The first stance we're going to look at is the Vital Point attack, with quarter circle forward and the light attack button. Hit puts the hands in the pockets, and then he can follow up with any of the 3 attack buttons. The light attack will punch the enemy, the medium attack does the same but knocks the enemy further away, even causing a wall bounce if you're close enough to the edge, and the heavy attack costs 1 bar of meter and will launch the opponent upwards, which then allows you to follow up with another combo on the ground, or you can call in for an assist or a vanish, something like that. Or you can also follow up with a super dash, but Hit doesn't really like being in the air. Again, Hit plays very differently, you'll have to adopt a different playstyle with him. In the assist position, this kick is also the attack that Hit performs, but obviously it doesn't cost you 1 bar of meter just to call in from the assist position. Now, all 3 moves coming from this stance have the exact same range, so what matters here is the effect and damage that you want to cause on the enemy. Because all 3 moves can be blocked in the same way, it's not a matter of how am I going to engage, it's a matter of how do I want to hit this enemy and how do I want to follow up. Finally, if you put your hands in your pockets but the enemy reacts a certain way, you can just cancel that stance by pressing the special button. Hit will take his hands out of his pockets and return to his normal fighting stance. Hit's got another special stance called the Tides of Time with quarter circle forward and the medium or the heavy attack button. There's a bit of an animation when activating this stance, and that's what the heavy attack version is there for, in case you want that animation to be a lot shorter, but it will cost you 1 bar of meter. After the activation, Hit gains this aura, and if the opponent throws an attack while the aura is active, it will just go right through him. And again, you can follow this up with any of the 3 attack buttons. You can press the light attack button up to 3 times for 3 punches from long range, and you can even direct the punches up or down. This is what happens when you don't press any direction. This is up and the light attack, and this is down and the light attack. And as you can see, it puts the opponent in a different situation. In case you want to follow up with a vanish or an assist attack, it's good to keep this in mind. Following up the stance with a medium attack button has hit showing up from the enemy's back and punching him away. A very quick way to cross up the enemy. And then the heavy attack version, costing 1 bar of meter, also crosses up to the enemy's back and kicks him in the butt. Once again, if you just want to cancel this stance, you can just press the special attack button. Moving on to Deadly Intent with quarter circle forward and the special button. Hit will dash across the screen and put his hands in his pockets. Yes, this is the vital point stance that we talked about earlier, and from here you can follow up pretty much the same way you would if you just perform this stance with a quarter circle forward light attack motion. However, if you hold down medium or the heavy attack button while hit is moving, instead of the vital point stance, you'll enter the Tides of Time stance. And once again, you can follow up with the same attacks you would if you just performed the motion, which means you can cross up your opponent twice before you even attack. Finally, Hit's last special move is Mark of an Assassin with quarter circle backwards and the special button. This one is also a quick dash like the last special attack, but it doesn't put Hit in a stance. You cannot follow this up with an attack. From what I understand, this is a simple dash backwards. But it is a special attack, which means you can include it in combos. If your opponent is blocking, this is a great move to get away from them before they can punish you for blocking a heavy attack. So Hit can be a bit more aggressive and reckless thanks to this move. Moving on to his supers, Hit's got 3 of them, 2 level 1 supers and a level 3. And before we talk about each specific super, I want to say that all of them are horizontal, they cannot be directed, but they cover the entire screen and are extremely fast, so it's easy to include them in combos for big finishes, and it kinda doesn't matter where the opponent is, as long as they're close to the ground, you should have no problem landing any of these 3. But let's talk specifics. First up, we have Realized Power with quarter circle forward and the right bumper, and this is the only one of Hit's supers that can be performed both on the ground or in the air. The rest is all ground only. Hit lunges forward and punches the enemy. If the attack lands, he'll deal the damage. If it is blocked, Hit will be vulnerable right in the opponent's face, which can be very dangerous. And that's maybe the biggest advantage to our next super, the Deathblow with quarter circle forward and the right trigger, which is the only ranged attack from Hit, as he just stands back from a safe distance and throws, this. What is this? An energy beam? A time energy beam? He throws this thing, okay? But as I mentioned, this one can only be used on the ground. And finally, we have his level 3, I Keep Improving with quarter circle backwards and the right bumper or trigger. Similar to his first level 1, the Realized Power, Hit lunges forward and punches the opponent. If it connects, this whole animation plays out. If it is blocked, you'll be vulnerable and right in the opponent's face, and again, that's dangerous. As far as our combos go, when you mash the light attack button, he does this. And when you mash the medium attack button, he does this. And now that we know his abilities, here are some tips on how to play him. Hit can engage from really far away, be it with both of his stances or just his medium and heavy attacks, which lunge forward a significant distance. After you engage though, your combos will be so different from other characters. You can use the launcher from the ground, sure, but since you can use stances to cancel your normals, his juggling potential on the ground is so much greater than any other character. His specialty is really catching opponents off of wall bounces and finishing with a super at any time, as long as he keeps the opponent on the ground. In the air, he will lose a lot of his mobility, and he also loses all of his stance attacks, since he cannot enter a stance while in the air. The only thing that Hit can do in the air, besides some normal attacks which are not that different from other characters, is the counter and his Realized Power super. That's it, and that's not a lot. So with Hit, it really feels like he's very powerful, but only while he is on the ground. And with the air being his biggest weakness, or at least not where his strength lies, it's easy to think that you'll be the master of the ground, and that's not really the case. Hit is not a beginner-friendly character, as both of his stances and dashing abilities have a bit of a startup animation during which Hit can be attacked. If you're trying to punish an overly aggressive player with a stance, chances are you'll be in a combo before you can even get anything off. But of course, Hit also has an answer to that, the counter. Just by pressing the special attack button, you can end a rushdown attempt, unless your opponent is really good at reacting to your counter, because they can just cancel their combo into a super and you'll just take it right in the face. That's right, landing a counter does not automatically mean you have the upper hand. Hit is vulnerable for a short period of time after receiving the first attack. But if you do land a counter, you can follow up with a super right away, so the reward for predicting your enemy's attack might be really awesome. Another one of Hit's greatest strengths is his ability to cross up to the enemy's back so fast both with his dashing ability and his Tides of Time stance, which you can actually combine both of these abilities if you want, making hit really unpredictable and an absolute nightmare for defensive players. And even if defensive players are able to read and block your normal combos, don't forget to disengage with a backwards dash, the mark of the assassin. Or just use the Icy Glare, since they cannot block it anyway, you'll force them into the air and that can be enough to throw them off their game. You can play a lot of mind games with hit, you can engage from far away, you can cross up very fast from a really big distance, and if you're on the ground you can pretty much just add any combo with a level 1 or a level 3, and that's what makes him very dangerous. Thank you for watching another character profile for Dragon Ball FighterZ. If you're looking for other characters, check out the playlist up there with all the breakdowns we've done so far. If you're in the mood for something else, there's also the video at the bottom, but as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku and I'll see you guys next time. Boy!